Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 197th episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. Sorry, I'm a little sick, so bear with me and my voice. Hopefully, I won't be coughing too much. So, I wanted to share something that an event that I went to yesterday, which was all about quantum computing and the future with a post-quantum world. And I was invited as a futurist, and obviously I said all the self-evident things of like, well, since this is very powerful computing, you have to use it responsibly and not to, exert social control, like a social credit scoring in China, which would constrict humans and restrict and control them. But there are much deeper things that you can say about this technology, which are spiritual in nature, and which in a roundtable with people that are, 100% probably, operating under a materialist view of the world, it's very hard to say certain insights that you may have on the technology itself. And so in this episode, I just wanted to push the boundaries of what could be said about quantum computing a bit further and look at it from a spiritual lens. So the first thing to notice is that many of the events that we've experienced recently are about showing us the limits of looking at reality through a strictly materialist lens. So one example is the coronavirus pandemic, whereby we were all treated like cars that needed to have their oil levels checked and all kinds of other things done in order to circulate on the road. So that's one, event that is pushing us to look beyond materialism and to understand that everybody's unique, every person's going to react differently and rekindle with personal choice rather than following the herd and this kind of mass one-size-fits-all kind of approach, which is based on materialist assumptions. That is, every single human body is the same. It's like a car. We'll just replace a piece here and there, inject a few things, and then it'll be, fit for, it can circulate on the road again. So that's one. The other event is climate change, for instance, which is looking at things as being strictly materialist. Will be powerless to solve the climate change crises. And, with quantum computing, it is also that kind of technology. It is a technology that is going to force us to abandon our materialist assumptions about reality, or else we'll completely destroy ourselves, basically. Especially because right now, under a materialist lens, humanity is still operating with this mentality of obsessive control and trying to fight against uncertainty. Like, the world is a scary place and nature is a scary place, and we want to make sure that every single variable is accounted for, is monitored, is all the sensors are going to monitor absolutely everything so that we're never surprised by anything. Not climate change, not an earthquake, not an asteroid falling from the sky. We're going to create this perfectly safe and secure cocoon for humanity because we'll have a powerful supercomputer that's going to calculate all future probabilities and kill off any potential bad scenarios. So it's with that kind of mentality or approach that we're still interacting with reality, whether we realize it or not. It is to try to make sure that we never die, this fear of death that comes from materialism also, because, it is assumed that once the body dies, there's no, the consciousness doesn't live on, it's the end. And so we're still in this obsession, this illusion that we're trying to control things. And when we're using super powerful computers like quantum computers, to use it to simulate scenarios about the future based on certain variables or certain data points or certain sensors, we're using it under materialist assumptions. That is, under a kind of linear cause and effect assumption that, based on a certain number of variables, if you know that kind of state, then you can predict the state of whatever's going to happen. It's this illusion that if you have a perfect picture of the state of each particle in the beginnings of the universe, then with a powerful enough computer, you can predict everything that will happen in the foreseeable future. And that is completely ignoring anything that chaos theory tells us about reality, interdependent origination from Buddhism, or, even simply, the quantum properties of reality itself. That is the observer effect and the fact that, nothing is actualized until it is observed. And so with quantum computers, what is the issue? And it is this question of who's actually the observer, who's observing reality that is collapsing it into a specific state or a specific experience. Now, when you're doing the double slit experiment, you're actually placing an observer, which is like a camera that measures things. But, sorry about that. But the most powerful observer that is always there, always in the room, is yourself. And that device that is measuring things is just an extension of your own activity of measuring. It's just an extension because you're the one pressing, record on the measuring device. So you can view it as just an extension of yourself, as if your attention, your act of observing, is now just stretched or enhanced by the tools you're using to observe reality. So humans, observers, are the ones collapsing reality, are the ones collapsing, quantum probabilities. Now, obviously, we're not the only ones doing this. You could argue that animals or other living beings are also collapsing reality, but to me, they're doing it in a unconscious or automatic way. That is, they're not consciously choosing to collapse things in one way or another. It's more of an automatic process. What humans have the power to do is to collapse quantum probabilities, in a conscious way, which is, this very esoteric saying that when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. It is because we have beliefs, we have paradigms through which we view the world, then obviously we don't see the same things. Like, for instance, if you're someone looking at fire some 20 or 30,000 years ago, maybe you're treating it as a divinity, as like a spirit or something. And the way you're going to interact with reality is going to be completely different. And then the experience, or what you're going to end up manifesting from that interaction, is also going to be completely different. Now, an animal doesn't have a choice in that matter. I mean, it's confronted with fire, it just a fight or flight kind of response, and it runs away. But humans, they have the power to, kneel and pray in front of the fire, or use it, or extinguish it, or do millions of different things with it. And that is the complete denial when we're using these quantum technologies that have these quantum properties. What we're trying to do are ultimately, if you think about it, is using the quantum properties of quantum computing to artificially collapse reality into something that is certain and predictable, because we're too scared of what the future might yield, because the future is not here yet. So through quantum computing, what you're doing is you're observing the future. But you're observing a future, a certain future timeline based on the parameters you have set for yourself, which is, for instance, these climate, it's said that quantum computing will be able to predict, climate change, and we're going to solve it because we're going to be able to predict every single thing that will happen, every single, weather, like terrible weather event, and understand it and reverse engineer it and everything, with the idea of controlling it. But the problem is, first of all, we'll not be able to control it, that's for sure, because we don't have the technology to act on the insight of quantum computing. That is, it's going to tell us there's going to be a flood in like a week here or there, but we don't have the tools to actually prevent it from happening. We'll just see it happen and say, oh, we knew it. It was about, look, the quantum computer predicted it's going to happen, and it happened. But what we fail to realize is that we're actually collapsing the future timeline of that event that is just a probability into an actualization of that event through the act of observing the future through quantum computers and quantum computing and their predictive powers. So it's almost as if we're calling those, bad kind of quote unquote events or futures to us by observing them through quantum computing, we're giving them more attention, we're giving them more power or more reality, basically, by the act of observation. And so, we'll have these experiences where we're going to, enter all kinds of parameters into these quantum computers. And obviously the parameters we're going to put in these computers are based on materialist assumptions, of linear cause and effect, first of all. Second of all, they're going to be parameters that are going to be designed for risk management or measuring the probability of cataclysmic events, not of positive events happening, because that's not the human mentality for the moment. We're so obsessed with catastrophe and danger and problems that we're only going to use quantum computing to assess problems. And guess what? The quantum computer is going to do exactly what we ask it. It's going to tell us, yes, there is a high probability of this problem. And then the problem will happen. And then we'll say, oh my God, look how powerful these computers are. They're right. And so, again, see quantum computing as a sign that we have to overcome a materialist kind of lens, because this feedback loop of us believing in materialism and the fact that materialism is a dead end in terms of our experience, it leads to a dead end in terms of the experience. Quantum computing is just another technology or event or way of interacting with reality that is going to force us to move beyond materialism and recognizing that there's a wider reality out there, and especially to integrate the whole quantum thing into people's minds and realize the ontological profundity of this quantum theories. Because again, it's this total mismatch between what quantum mechanics tells us about reality and the way that we use it and interact with reality. And David Mermin, the scientist, formulated it the best way. Our approach to using the quantum insights about reality is shut up and calculate. That is, we use all the nice formulas and equations and stuff, and we don't ask the most important philosophical questions about what does that tell us about reality and our responsibility in molding and shaping the experience. We're still pretending like us as humans, we are not observers that are collapsing, quantum probabilities into an actual experience. We are still believing that this reality is actually out there, is actually real, and that all of the parameters that exist right now will determine everything that will happen in the future, and that we're powerless to stop it, especially not with our conscious minds and our observing power. No. We're just a sack of matter that is just going along the ride with all the other variables, and we have no power of changing any of that. And so it's a complete denial of what quantum mechanics tells us and our role in it as observers. And so using quantum computers with that kind of mindset is just going to create a bigger and bigger feedback loop, or a quicker and quicker feedback loop between what we believe, the limitations we set for ourselves, which is there's only materialism, and with these variables we can calculate the future, and then experiencing that terrible future and then saying, oh my God, we were right. But then, we're just creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that predicts our doom that we experience, and more and more and more, until we start using it in a different way. Now, before we all go panicking and saying, we all have to go take our pitches, knives and pitchforks and torches and destroy every single quantum computer in reality, there's an alternate way that I can foresee using quantum computers, which is actually beneficial. Because again, if you believe that everything happens for a reason, and that you can always use things with a higher purpose once you view things with a spiritual lens, then there is a deeper way of using these things. And it's the same example as somebody that's stuck with a monotheist worldview. They will not be able to interact with a locomotive or these emerging technologies in the industrial age with the correct kind of mindset. Like, imagine you are strictly believing in the Bible, there's no cause and effect, God created everything, there's angels, there's demons. If you look at a locomotive, what do you see? You see a machine that is powered by the fires of hell, because it's all like there's this burning furnace and that is advancing, and that is, this giant steel beast. So you could say that it's a devilish kind of instrument, or you could say it's powered by the divine power of the angels because there's this nice willowy white smoke that's coming out of the chimney. And so you understand that sometimes it's a paradigm shift in your way of thinking and interacting with your reality that allows you to use technology in a way that it should be used. And if you stay stuck in an old paradigm, then you're not using it properly. So here is the way that I envisage the use of quantum computers. So quantum computers have these qubits, or these bits that, instead of being a deterministic switch of either being in a 0 state or a 1 state like traditional computers, it is in a superimposed 0 and 1 state simultaneously, based on quantum theories and quantum mechanics. And then you use some external instruments to try to stabilize or actualize that qubit into being either a 0 or a 1, based on like lasers or microwaves or all kinds of other techniques, which are kind of a little bit out of my realm of understanding. But you're basically then manipulating these qubits into being either a 0 or a 1, or increasing the probability of them being in one state or another. And arguably that is going to allow for much more complex calculations than these deterministic gates that are either in a 0 or a 1 state and cannot be in both at the same time. Now, we all know, in the spiritual circles at least, that the human heart, generates a magnetic field. Now, for all of those that are like, yeah, so what? I invite you to look at the link in the description about heart math and the whole heart-to-heart communication between humans, and the fact that there's a lot of things happening in the heart that we don't necessarily understand. But to go fully spiritual and esoteric, the heart is basically the seat of the soul, and your heart's magnetic field, and your heart carries information and wisdom that is almost like your soul or your higher self's wisdom for yourself. And because we've transitioned to hardcore materialism and scientists' view of the world, we tend to view the heart as just a dumb organ that is just pumping blood. Even though we had research that shows us that there is a neural network in the heart, and that there's a neural network in the gut, and that all three are interlinked, and that the heart may influence a lot of things about how the brain behaves and thinks. But we're like blah blah blah. We don't care. We don't need to know about this. The heart is just pumping blood, and that's it. But the heart carries a kind of very deep and profound wisdom for you as a human, and we've just lost the ability, or most of us at least, to communicate with it. Now, imagine if you measure in real time the electromagnetic field produced by the heart, then convert it into a system that allows to, map your heart's magnetic field onto the state of the qubits of a quantum computer, and then make that quantum computer and that shift in the states of its qubits convert it into an information that the brain can understand. Like, for instance, images, sounds, a screen, touch, smell, whatever. The senses that we're used to with our brain. So quantum computing ultimately could be a way of communicating with your higher self or your highest intentions for this reality. That is, your heart knows what is best not only for you, but for every single human and for humanity. And it knows the best, most joyful, most fulfilling timeline for you as an individual. And so I would imagine a society in the future where, instead of going for your yearly checkup at your doctor's, you go for a yearly chat because ultimately I think this will require a very sophisticated and complex quantum computer, which won't be readily available for any individual. But you take an appointment to go with a yearly chat and talk with your higher self or your heart, to sort of talk about how the year went, what are your challenges, what could you do to improve your life, improve the life of others, what what are the shadows and the trauma that you still need to resolve. And then, you go about living your life for another year, and then you go for another yearly checkup. And, people would, pick a date, or we assigned a date to have me and like alone time with speaking to your own heart, basically. Now, obviously, this is because as humans, within the technological paradigm that we've created for ourselves, we use technology as a way of interacting with ourselves and with reality. And so it's one way to talk with your heart. Obviously, people can go talk to a clairvoyant, or they can ask someone from astrology, or they can go into do ayahuasca, or they can go into a altered conscious deep meditation state to talk with their higher self. And so it's not like it's the only way. It is just that if we pursue the technological and materialist way, then if you want to do it in a way that is not a dead end, and that leverages the whole quantum properties of reality in a positive sense, then that's the way to go about it. And so everyone then would have a choice as to how they want to interact or chat with their higher self, whether they prefer to go to a human or a clairvoyant that is going to tell them what they feel, or whether they will do card readings, or whatever, or talk to that quantum computer, which is a way to just have this feedback loop of your heart to your brain, from your brain to your heart, and so on. And so in this sense, you're not trying to collapse the future. You understand that this quantum computer, because it has this, it's very, very sensitive to any shifts or changes in outer reality, like any vibration, any shift in temperature, any electromagnetic field that passes through those qubits affects the states of those qubits. And so that's why we're using all these very sophisticated techniques to try to collapse them into producing something that is certain and controllable. Instead, you're leveraging that property by making the quantum computer kind of reflect or resonate with the electromagnetic field produced by your heart, and then being able to tap into your deeper wisdom as a human that you've been disconnected from via technology. It can be that way, or it can be via self-actualization. It doesn't really matter ultimately, because the end result is the same. But it's just to show you how a technology that we're using with the bad assumptions, just like a priest would have no idea how to use a locomotive, or for that matter, an atom bomb, it would think, oh, this is, the atom bomb. Yeah, I'm going to use it to, destroy Satan and evil from this world, and then we'll try to bomb the shit out of every single people that are not Christian. There's just certain technologies you have to operate a paradigm shift in your way of viewing the world in order to use them in a responsible way. So I hope you found this episode interesting. Don't hesitate to leave a comment, share, like, subscribe, the usual, and talk to you in the next episode. Bye, guys.